back to Talkin Guff podcast with myself, Ruben Django Pouch, and my good friend
Schlick Len.
Schlick Lane.
No,
On the technical ones and twos, Mr. Golden Holy Pony over there.
The golden hole, they
He's
call him.
rocking an Umbro tracksuit. Yesterday,
Mumbro top.
I've seen him. No. He's got the full tracksuit.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, I met him the other day. He was rocking a full Umbro tracksuit. I was like, yo, where is this 1996?
He's going for an A1 at his junior Sir Diver, I should tell you that much. You know.
So, hey, Len.
Shellac. Hey,
How you getting on? How was your week, bro?
Good, man, good. I was actually thinking about this on the way over because I suspected you might ask me that question.
Okay, cool. So you're doing a little research into your own week.
Into my own week. The last couple of days were deadly, but fucking Monday, man, I fell down the well of just dread for some reason.
Oh, really? You got that black dog?
That, yeah, and I don't know how it's hard to, like, you wish sometimes you could turn around and turn on the lights in your own head and just be like, all right, where the fuck, oh, that's why I have a problem with whatever, or, you know, or that's why I'm whatever. But you don't, you're just kind of, and that's the one thing that's been a big thing about the lockdown, and it's sort of fascinating in a way, is that I realised how you're really at the mercy of your own internal. I used to have so many distractions, do you know that kind of way?
Of course, yeah.
You know, and now it's like...
There's nowhere to hide.
No, fucking A, man. There's nowhere to
hide. Yeah, and I mean, you can actually apply that. Apparently a lot of the GPs now are facing people coming in. Just records sort of mental health issues with general sort of things. People coming in just saying, I'm not feeling. And so like that, you've nowhere left to hide. And like, even like the real grim sort of side. Remember when the lockdown started, and it's obviously still happening. We just don't hear about it as much because, for whatever reason, but domestic abuse through the roof as a result of the lockdown, and that's like nowhere to hide from your abuser, and so now, like, you know, that'd be an extreme situation and an awful situation, and really makes me feel bad about humanity when you hear things like that. Oh, apparently now that we have to stay indoors all the time, domestic abusers are they're in hog heaven, and you're just like, oh god. But the others, like, that's obviously not rarefied, but not necessarily across the board. Whereas I think the not being able to hide from your own thoughts and your own sort of mental health peaks and troughs is universal for people.
Yeah, I think you're just forced to face your own demons, but you know what as well, like,
could that be a good thing?
You see, this is the thing, man. I kind of weigh, in a long-term sense, that's also made me think about the rest. Like, was it better that I was able to just distract myself with other things?
No, I think because when you think about it, all they've really taken away from you is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say, look, we're going to do a whole podcast on COVID, I think, at some stage. But, like, what they've taken away from us is sort of like they haven't really taken our freedom of expression or freedom of thought. You know, we're not really being oppressed. And in fact, it's a double-edged sword, but, you know, it's more the materialistic sort of practical things that have been taken away. Like, we still have the ability to be cognizant and think and philosophize and do art and be creative and make a podcast, whatever it is.
And by they, sir, you mean, I suppose, the situation now.
The situation, the people who create policy, and I don't mean to be like that's just. I just mean because I don't create policy, I don't get to make the rules.
We know why they're doing it.
Coronavirus. Well, yeah, I mean, we won't get into that maybe because.
Yeah, maybe not.
That's a Pandora's
Gooch.
Right there. Shut up, dog.
But I know.
And my poor dog's losing her marbles, I think.
I'd say, man.
Yeah, she used to be. She's not with it anymore. But
she used to be with it. She was down.
Yeah, now she doesn't even know what it is.
What's that music they're playing on the radio now? This trap music.
I was watching the Lollapalooza Simpsons episode there the other day.
Oh, man.
Now I don't even know what it is anymore. And what I am isn't it. And what's it looks scary to me. I was just like, so well done. But so we thought today, like, obviously the first two episodes of the podcast we hit on, or we took one topical subject, as it were, and explored that or had a conversation about that on both instances, episode 1 and 2. So maybe to keep it light, I suggested that every once in a while we throw in just sort of a general sort of tidbits Is the word tidbits or tidbits?
I think it's tidbits. I think I saw it written
Google that
down
shit, will you please, Robert?
in an Elton John song.
I'm sorry, Rob, how was your week? Not that we give a fuck.
Oh
but
my God!
don't do this
Fucking
again.
hell.
No, but look, you look happy enough. You're rocking a nice Umbro tracksuit. You can't be losing. No. Okay, perfect. So let's just see there. Is it tidbits or tidbits?
I typed in tidbits.
And it just re-corrected it to tidbit.
Big old titties came up.
Big old titties. Yeah, that's what I... It's tidbits.
Tidbits.
Oh, tidbits.
T-I-T-B-I-T. Let me see if I can...
I was today years old when I realised
I've
it's...
definitely heard people say tidbits, or it's more maybe
Tidbits,
people
right,
just feel
yeah.
unusual about.
So
saying
anyway,
it.
it's-
Where do I go to the right here?
It's titbits. Oh,
titty
look, here we go.
bitties.
Titbits meaning a small piece of tasty food.
Okay.
Isn't it funny then that a tit, and we all love sticking tits in our mouth and having a suck, and then a tidbit is just a little bit of tit, just a small piece of that tasty titty.
And that's true. We did at one point all love tits in our mouth. Doesn't matter who.
I still do. What are you talking about? I'm 36 years
No,
of
exactly.
age.
But I'm saying no matter who you are around the world, at one point,
You were
that was
sucking
the best
titties.
thing. That was the best thing.
You were
in the
sucking
world
them
to you.
titties, even if you grew up to be a whatever it is kids are being these days. Once upon a time, you were sucking on them big old heavy titties.
That's how we all began. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I was thinking. I just sort of, and usually I would like quite try and put a lot of effort into making sure we know exactly what we're talking about. Whereas today I've just sort of, and if you'll notice, my notes.
It's just a big question mark.
It's
on
just
this side. I
one
don't know if you
thing
can't see
as
it there,
opposed to
but-
a few. And so I thought we'd rock it like that. And some of it's going to be lighthearted, some of it's going to be heavy, and in general, hopefully, it's just a nice little whip round of thoughts and conversations. The other thing is we're going to try and keep it at a respectable time today because we've been shiting out of us there the last couple episodes, and we're going to try to keep the general ones nice and tight and just like boom, little pockets of
Get
entertainment
Rob
for you.
home in time for bed, etc., etc.
I was looking back over our previous two podcasts. I think I'm our biggest fan, by the way.
Oh, really?
A little bit. But
I think we had like 100 views on the first one. I was like, is that mostly Ruben?
yeah, 97. I think I did 97. I don't think it works like that. I'm pretty sure if you just blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You can only get one view per account. That's why
Yeah.
I've got 97 Gmail accounts.
It's a full-time job.
The first episode we talked about technology, and I flirted that I had a little poo your pants story.
Fuck, man, I keep forgetting to
So I thought today we'd just talk about it.
Excellent.
So a few little stories that I wanted to put out today. But years ago, funny enough, we're shooting this podcast in a shed.
Not that many years ago.
Yeah,
I'm going to venture.
I
but anyway.
many minutes ago crapped my pants. We're shooting this podcast from a shed that is outside my mother's house. That was built for me to live in when I was about 15 years of age. There was limited space in the house. People had
He
returned
kept
from
shitting himself.
Yeah, they said you can't live in the house anymore. You keep shitting in your pants. It's driving us crazy. No, so there was people had returned. Older siblings had returned from far afield, and they're traveling in Thailand and the Philippines and whatnot. And they came back, and I got put out in the shed here, and I loved it. It was perfect for me. It was such a level of independence and blah blah blah. But I remember in around. So would you pull this up for us there, Tech Wizard?
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Type it in there.
Where's the one from it?
I just want to know when it, like, just type in GTA San Andreas because I'm just trying to get a time frame. But I basically got San Andreas. I'm going to say it was around the 2002 mark. PlayStation 2.
Yeah, 2005, I'd say.
2004.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm then 20 years of age. I got... Where's it?
Jeez, man, it's mad thinking. It's mad thinking it's just released there.
There.
It's mad thinking there's a
Okay, right,
generation of kids who won't remember.
26th of October 2004. I pooed my pants playing that computer game. I refused.
I pooed my pants on the 27th of October 2004.
No, it must have been Christmas 2004/2005. I got
It was a brown Christmas.
And I was playing San Andreas, and I refused. Like, it was just like, I'm in, this is the thought process, right? I'm on it, and it's in this room. There was a bed there, and the telly, funny enough, is exactly where the telly is now. And so I'm sitting on the bed, and I really need to go for poo-poo. And I'm just like getting so into this level. And you know when it's just like, you just have to keep going back. And I kept dying on this mission that I'm doing.
And just because you had to go into the house to drop a duke.
The whole time, right? The whole time I'm just there to myself, Ruben, this is too close to put, and it's turtle heading. And then I was just like, no, this is not going to work. And literally, I stood up. I stood up, and as I'm bounding out the door, this is like at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? Smoking joints, and I'm bounding out the door, and I get to the deck, and it just comes out. And it's not like the classic pee your pants story. Don't wince. It's not like one of those classic pee your pants story, like where you feel a bit unwell, you do a fire and it follows through or something. This was a dump, hammocked in my underpants.
What mission?
I think it was somewhere you're like a little remote control helicopter or something. But in my defense, San Andreas was like the best computer game that I've ever been at that stage. You couldn't.
Your Honor.
Come on.
Worth shitting yourself over.
I mean,
Pretty immersive. And it was the best.
it was the first, certainly that's the first open world sort of computer game we had. Like that. Obviously the first Grand Theft Auto, like with the first
Vice
like
City, they had Vice City.
Vice City's, this is,
No.
type in Vice City for me there, would it?
Vice City was on something else. It was on a different platform or something, wasn't it?
No,
was
it
on this
wasn't.
thing? Actually, look, listen to me.
Just Google Vice City, GTA Vice City for us.
I hope you wrote to Rockstar, man. I hope you wrote to the
stop.
makers and said, look, I just want to tell you how goddamn good
Yeah,
you get.
yeah, your game's so goddamn good.
When I saw the graphics, I took a shit.
2002.
Oh, sorry,
there you go.
pardon me. So, but maybe I, for some reason, didn't play. I just remember that being the first one I was like, that was the first game I was willing to crap my pants to.
You could swim in this, so
You always remember your first, right?
Always
If you could swim to what? To different...
Like you could go anywhere.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
with Vice City, if you went in the water, boom.
You did?
That was the that was
Oh, okay, right. Tell me this, did you ever poo your pants playing a computer game? Or did you ever poo your pants?
No.
Obviously, I've pooed my pants more than that, but that's one that really stuck out.
Oh, I got stories, buddy. I mean, I got a whole trunk full of... But not since I was a kid, man. I actually have to say, I've thought about this. I have pretty good rectal control.
Oh, yeah?
I've got pretty... I don't know where that comes from, but I've got pretty good... I've always had pretty good rectal...
Are your parents uptight?
Yeah, they always insisted I put a big long stick up there at the start of every...
Are they sort of like conservative?
Yeah, they're pretty... Yeah, like my mum was a bit of a hippie. Like both my parents are vegetarians, right? Like I was raised vegetarian.
Hippie, what?
Right, well...
Bops. I better turn my phone off.
See, my mom was a bit of a hippie back in the day, and my dad was well, he was trying to fuck, you know, but
Because he's a man.
and hence I'm a vegetarian. But no, I would say they're pretty conservative. They're like classic middle class parents. Yeah,
Okay, right.
We didn't.
Do you think they have constipation
We didn't have a go
problems?
shit yourself out in the shed policy. Constipate. You know what, man?
I don't think I've ever been constipated. I don't know.
I don't think I've ever had. It's something I'm very aware of, right? I love shitting. Or
Yes.
I'm gonna say that right now.
Yeah.
It's like my fucking favorite thing to do. It's so
What
wrong.
is it about shitting and pissing and ejaculating, those release functions that are so...
good? But
Because, I mean, sometimes I do a good poo and it's like ejaculating.
oh man, well look, you have a little there's no shame in that. You have a little
just
G
like
spot. You have a little G spot in your ass, and that's, I don't know, is that why it's there? Because otherwise
Otherwise it
dudes
wouldn't be
just
any
wouldn't
fun.
poo. Yeah.
I'm not going to sit on a toilet for 5 minutes unless I get, like, some sort of,
Flow.
orgasm.
I'm like I'm aware of, I look at how much fiber is in things and stuff now.
Yes.
When I gotta eat, or like I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll eat some fruit, because I look so much forward to it. Like one of my favorite, this happened to me the other day. That's one of my favorite things, especially in the lockdown when like your pleasures are few. You gotta get them where you can.
Yes.
And I took a really good fucking dump, and I stood up and both my knees popped, and I was like, oh. I just stood there in bliss for like a couple minutes. The other thing is I'm a standing wiper. I don't know about you.
What?
Oh, here we go,
Stand
baby.
up to wipe your arse?
Yes,
But
yes.
you do that as well?
It's one, baby.
Well, hold on a minute. Because I'll tell you one thing. I think wiping a person's bum, I think wiping your bum is the most draconian and ineffective way of removing the residual poo from one's butthole.
That's
like we're living in the civilized world here, and again, in fucking third world countries in Southeast Asia, they got a hose connected to the jacks, and you wash your arse. It's like, how come these motherfuckers haven't figured out? And we're living in the civilized world, and we're using wadded paper to smear shit up the crack of our arse.
Back in Henry VIII's day, there was like something. He was like some council of the Privy Stool or something like that. You had a special dude who'd just come in and he'd.
That sounds like my son. I am my son's council of
I'm
my.
so glad it's that way around. Louis.
Daddy needs his arse wiped.
Sorry, we
Louis 8
promised.
years of age, and he just refuses to wipe his arse.
He's the perfect height.
He's just like, come here.
All right, we're gonna drop that. Yeah, well, that's 100%. That's why, but you love him. That's why you gotta do it, right? That seems crazy to me that you wipe another person's arsehole, but that's the relationship you're in. Man, I agree with that, right? The main thing, I've always stood up to wipe, and I don't know where I got that from, but one of the big advantages of it.
And is your back straight, or do you haunch over?
I think I popped the booty out a little bit.
Arch. And you're not worried then that maybe like as your cheeks sort of contract when you stand up, that maybe residual poo gets wiped onto a part
Look,
of
I've got a
Conscious effort to maintain a
spread.
Exactly, there's a conscious effort, and it's a thorough job. It's not just all right. Like, I hope that's it. Like, I have got a hairy butt crack, so I need to get in there anyway.
I know, yeah.
Sometimes it
Do you use a lot of
bleeds,
toilet
man.
paper?
Yeah. I
Just
mean,
say sometimes it bleeds.
yeah. Sometimes you get a little blood on the
yeah.
thing. But anyway, what I'm saying, the main thing about standing up is that you look into the bowl and see what fucking just came out of you.
What is that about?
That's a crucial thing for me, man.
I'm that as well. Like,
If man, something just came out of your body, you don't want to look at it.
I do always. I look at my poos often and and sort of grade them.
I keep them in a
One
drawer.
time, one was coming right out of the water. It was just like when I do a big. I know this sounds totally whatever, but
Why should it? Like, why are we so...
Like, well, you know, when I do a big massive poo, I'm proud of it a little bit. I'm just like a little bit like, here, check that out.
Man, isn't it like, that was in my colon and now it's
And
not.
there's something about getting it out all in one.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%, man. You're just like, but that's a sign of health when they're that nice tan brown.
You don't want any oily stool sticking to the back of the jacks.
No,
you know you got problems.
You know when it's disintegrated or it's in bits, or a night on the Guinness and you're like, fucking, you've basically put a bullet hole in the bottom of your toilet. But think about, man, on a really serious note, like one day I'm going to turn around and look down and they're going to be like grey or green, and I'm going to be like, right, I need to get my bowels checked.
Yeah.
I could have fucking colon cancer. And there's millions of people out there who are just doing it, sitting wiping flesh. Oh, I don't even want to look at it. And it's like, you're gonna die now. You know what I mean? You're in the doctor's office. The doctor's saying, "Well, look, you know, if we could have caught it, if only you were."
Oh, stop! Will you? Don't say that. I'm 36 years of age. I'm already starting to freak out.
Well, I'm just saying that's partly my reasoning anyway.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I think it's a perfectly healthy thing to be interested in what comes out of your body. I think that's just.
It's your body. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't have poo shame.
Don't fucking. If there's any message.
Yeah, from today's podcast, it's don't have poo shame. Be proud of your turds.
Turd pride.
We said there, we spoke about San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto, and then I saw a thing, Rob actually sent me a thing that looked like Grand Theft Auto there last week, and we're going to have a quick chat about that. Did you see this video of a shooting in the States?
I have to be honest, man, I don't really watch though, but I see people send them in, and sometimes, like, I watched your one get shot that sounds really callous, but in the...
especially the way you're laughing when you say it.
Yeah, when I say, in the Capitol, well, I was laughing at how I said it, not at the fact that somebody was killed. Yeah. But remember your one trying to break through the window of the Capitol building, But I don't know. Yeah, other than that, I don't know. I will watch those videos.
But I know what you mean. It's not. It's grim, but there is a level of morbid fascination to it as well. And then there's
100%.
also part of me is sort of going. It's sort of important to know that this is, like, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about. Rob sent me a video there last week from the States, and it's basically like it's a CCTV footage from a CCTV camera that's obviously at the front of someone's house. It's giving us the classic front view of the house. You see the sort of the top of the roof, the driveway, the garden, the road, the neighbours. And there's an argument going on. Obviously, a couple, a man and woman in middle age, sort of maybe their 40s or 50s, 40s, let's say, late 40s, live in the house, obviously, that we're looking from, that the CCTV is connected to. And they are having an argument with their neighbour about, apparently it's about, because it's snowing, and apparently it's about the shoveling of said snow on the road or driveways or whatever the fuck.
Now, I presume.
This is in America, right?
Dumping it into his gaff, and it's been going on for years.
Okay, so there's some. When Rob sent me the video, I was like, "That's not real," because there's sort of sync issues because it's CCTV, and so I was thinking, because there's audio and everything for it, so I was just like, "That's not real." And Rob then sent me an article to confirm, back it up. Yeah, this is in fact real. And what happens is they're having this argument. The man and the woman are shouting at this other dude, and he's shouting back at them, and it's all like, "Fuck you, you fucking pussy. No, fucking you, bro. You fucking asshole.
Well, fuck you.
All that fuck? Yeah. That's her.
Well, fuck your fucking... yeah, fuck your...
Yeah, my girlfriend's got a loud mouth, but she's
Times
right.
a million, yeah.
So, and basically, the guy walks across the road, goes into his house, comes out with a handgun, shoots them both a couple of times each. They're not dead. Goes back into his house, comes back out of his house. Like, moments are transpiring here. Comes back out of his house with a fucking rifle of some description. I don't know, I'm not a gun expert, but it looks like a machine gun-y rifle type thing. Walks over to your one and says, "Should have kept your fucking mouth shut." And bang, bang, shoots her twice close range. Walks over to her husband, who we can't see. He's just below the parapet of the roof, so we can't actually see him. He's out of frame. But your man obviously walks over to him, says, "Call me a pussy," and fucking shoots him twice. Now that, for me, just seemed like one of the most fucked up things I've seen in a while. Like, and obviously the technological revolution and the internet has brought us. Like, do you remember when you were 18, an internet site called rotten.com?
Yeah, I was afraid to click on it.
Jesus, that was
that like where
creepy,
Blue
like,
Waffle and all that kind of stuff
No,
came from?
worse.
Or
Like,
no, that's,
there's been there's decapitations and
Popping out of a helicopter.
Yeah.
And brains splattered all over.
like babies being found in dumpsters and all types of insane shit, grim stuff. But we're obviously desensitized to that stuff a little bit. But just when I watched it, man, I was just like, on a lot of levels. So just on a general level, like, is that a result of, like, people, like, I think that we're going to start seeing a lot more violent sort of things like that happen. Like, I think that's coming down the tracks for us. The parameters will be different. There won't be guns involved necessarily, certainly not automatic weapons, certainly not me or you having them, but, like, transpose whatever readily available weapons are available to us onto that situation. I think, like, I mean, there was a guy recently who had shot his missus, or fucking shoved a sword through her head or something like that in the blanche. There was the woman
Like,
killed her
was it a
babies.
samurai sword? Because
Yeah.
that's like the classic, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
isn't it
that's
so
what it
mad
was.
that the government had to bring in, like, they actually had to specifically ban samurai swords because all these mad lads in fucking Dublin and Bray started running around with everyone. That's fucking 20 people I know have stories about somebody bringing a samurai sword into a
comes
pub
out like
or
that.
something.
It's like, fucking hell.
Chop this hand off.
Chop this fucking hand off. But I mean, so I suppose, as much as I think that in some level is coming down the tracks potentially, because we spoke there, you said you're alone with your thoughts, you've nowhere to hide from your thoughts. But imagine then you were a person who always had mental health issues, or, you know, or in fact, just say, for instance, that not only are you alone with those thoughts, not only can you not escape, not only is there nowhere to hide, as we said, but there's also less resources available to you now at the moment with COVID and all that, and so there are less resources available to anyone suffering mental health issues in an already, resource sparse, area or whatever the fuck you want to say. But then, I mean, like I said, I can see that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think there's things people take for granted as well. Like I remember when it was during the last time the lockdown sort of eased up a little bit last year.
Yeah, and around July the 4th. I think the 4th of July, places started opening up. Definitely in the States and here as well. I seem to remember that was
wasn't it? And like I remember we went drinking with a few of your mates from work or whatever, Rob, right? And I woke up the next day, and I was obviously still a little bit buzzed, I was still a little bit half cut. But I was so fucking elated because I had spoken to people I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
That's all I could, and I didn't realize how amazing that was. But in my day-to-day life, you go out, you meet someone at the pub, they have a friend, you get chatting to whoever, you take for granted the interactions you have with just new people or with fucking whatever, or getting to walk into a shop. All of these little freedoms that you never realised were like a big part of your kind of mental health menu or buffet or whatever that are now being denied you. So it's resources, exactly like you say, it's resources that we know about, but it's also the things that you took for granted that you're like, I'm not even aware of what I'm really missing here, or even just a trip to the cinema or fucking whatever it was.
The cinema.
Yeah, Jesus, man, yeah. When will I get to smoke a joint and fucking go see a movie on my own again? That was just my favourite. And then poo in the middle of it. But as well as that, funny you say about violence, man, because I read somewhere recently that in the early 2000s, the number of people around the world, it was down to like less than 5% of the world's population died by violence, either war, murder, whatever. And since the 2008 crash, it's back up to like 8, 9, 10% now.
Okay, yeah.
So it's not a funny fucking trend that it's kind of on its way up again.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
that wouldn't surprise me now at all. And I can see, I just feel like, and again, if we do an episode about coronavirus, this is sort of the other, like, the ramifications of the situation, and I'm not just like the external ramifications, the non-COVID ramifications of the situations, like the things we're talking about here, there's a lot of that to talk about, and so that's why I think a full episode would be really interesting on that stuff.
But just on the violence thing, man, I think is sort of fascinating in itself, because, like, I bet, I'm totally, obviously he's talking out my hole here, but I bet your man fantasized about doing that fucking 1,000 times. Not even specifically with those people, but you're talking about a guy who has a handgun, and a fucking submachine gun or whatever in his gaff.
Yeah. But here's the thing: is that guy went in and killed himself.
Yeah,
when the cops came in and went in and killed himself.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus!
Oh Jesus!
Freeze frame. Like, don't get him there.
Right,
so he goes in and kills himself. So obviously, because here's the thing, like, the perpetrator of that crime is not, and I don't mean to sort of downplay it and excuse or anything, but at the root of it as well is, like you said, like, if you're fantasizing, I don't disagree with you whatsoever. I'd say, yeah, probably that's part of his thing, like, oh yeah, someone fuck with me and I'll fucking blast them out of it.
Just give me the excuse.
Yeah, and then, but then, but so then he's really unhappy,
Taxi driver, yeah.
And then he got, you know what I mean? And then he goes and kills himself, and it's just like, what a fucking rotten waste of life.
Yeah.
Like, you were obviously in a place where you probably didn't want to be here anyway, and you take two other cunts out with you, and
hijacked by anger, though, for sure.
An emotional hijack. Imagine that, because that's what I meant by minutes have passed here. He fucking goes in and gets a second gun, and still, no point. It's an emotional hijack.
But in a way, and I don't mean to just on the, America is obviously a particular case with the amount of guns and everything over there.
They have a gun they have a registered gun, I think, for every man, woman and child.
Yeah,
350 million registered guns.
Which is like 25 million more guns than there are people. Yeah, so that's
they're registered guns.
And they're
I think I'm right about that, but I might be wrong.
Legally owned, or at some point legally
I'll be
owned.
fucking going, I suppose I better Google that. If it was just your man off Joe Rogan, we'd be fucking reading it off the screen already.
Yeah.
Get your shit together, Slattery.
Yeah.
But obviously then, it's funny because we were saying last week, we're talking about division and whatnot. And like, that's obviously... you have a real computer issue this week, are you?
Yeah.
That's obviously
one among
like
many issues,
an extreme sort of version of division there. But it's like, I can't, another, like I said, it's coming down the tracks, but again, like, here's Joe Biden. Trump's gone.
Yeah.
But you're still doing that to each other.
Oh yeah, well I mean, look, that's as like you said. I think it was last week. You know, Trump was a symptom, man. He wasn't. He was. I mean, under his auspices, things almost calmed down in a way because crazy motherfuckers felt like they had, you know, they at least thought someone was up there trying to, you know, work.
He definitely.
Work
I saw, because I saw that in New York Times article, and it was sort of, that was the thing about it. It's like he gave a foothold or a place in society for these people who, look, they're in your society. You can't sort of go, no, but like, you have to look at them, you have to deal with them. But he gave a real sort of place for ideals and ideologues that don't have any place in civilized modern society.
No, that's true as well. But also, like, when you trace back to Obama's election and like all of these militia groups that popped up in the wake of like these you know, private. I mean, they say militia, like they're like, I suppose they're paramilitaries, but they basically just groups of white men in the
Shitting themselves.
suburbs. Yeah,
Shitting
who all buy
themselves.
this tactical equipment.
What did you call it before? Because we talked about settler colonialist countries. You had a great term for it. Reprisal anxiety.
Oh, reprisal anxiety, man. Yeah.
And I would say that's
yeah.
what's kicking in there a little bit. Like, it's funny. One of my absolute favourite comedians is a fellow called Patrice O'Neill.
Oh, man.
I love Patrice.
I fucking love
And God rest his
Patrice
soul. Patrice O'Neill's no longer with us.
May he rest in power, man. Absolutely.
May he rest in power, bro. Now you're talking.
Yeah.
But that's so annoying. I just totally
Oh, fuck, I
Fugazi
off
brain
getting
off.
Man, I don't even go into his bits, but some of the bits he used to do are just so fucking good.
Some of them are unbelievable. Some of the stuff he has to say about relationship, and you mightn't want to, like, people mightn't want to admit it. It's on the fucking money.
Man, sometimes he says things on, you know, the Opie and Anthony show,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest with you, I listen to clips of Opie and Opie and Anthony are, they're
Douchebags.
hard to fucking deal with.
Yeah, and Anthony's obviously a fucking total bigoted, racist, misogynistic.
But without
weirdo.
even going
Strange
there,
character.
when you listen to O'Neill on there and he's talking whatever, and they'll have female guests on who are like, "You can't say," and by 20 minutes later they'll be
They
like,
wanna-
"Yeah,
they wanna be
yeah,
with him
exactly."
sexually. He's a fucking
they're literally
legend.
like, "Yeah, I'll take that." I promise you, but he says things I could never say. I could never even.
Stop being a pussy, Len.
Yeah,
Stop
no.
skirting. You want
You are
to
what you eat.
remove yourself from, you know, you must be starving, are you?
I haven't shit in days. Anyway.
But anyway, I can't remember what I was going to say about fucking Patrice O'Neill, so forget about it for
Good
the
to
moment.
just bring him up.
Bring him up,
Just-
and he will come up so many more times. But the thing about, like, it's that idea now then, because it's like we said, Trump was not the problem. He's a symptom of their, or a byproduct of their broken system. If they don't look at that broken system, if they don't look at the disenchanted masses all the way down the middle of the country, their own countrymen and women, if they don't address that, they're going to face the same situation again. But here we are now, and, you know, it's a brand new day in America. Should have kept your mouth shut. There's your brand new fucking day. And the thing about it is, like, of course that's the situation, because Joe Biden is a fucking war criminal. Like, Joe Biden signed off on erroneous documents with regards to weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, fucking Afghanistan, whatever their buzz was, Iraq. And now obviously we know that was all total concocted bullshit just to suit a narrative that would allow the US to wade in there under the guise of liberation and
This is
democracy.
back during Bush now? or
Talking
this is-
2003.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
In the wake of 9/11. And Biden was there. Biden signed off on that. And so he was a fucking war criminal, in my opinion. And just like Tony fucking Blair. It's funny, I think we spoke before about how much they treat, like, how poorly Jeremy Corbyn is treated in the UK by the press and by opposing political parties and members of opposing political parties, just like everyday Joe Soaps like me and you. Like, they're terrified of Corbyn. But I saw Blair, because basically, now I'd have to look into this maybe a bit more, but a thing came up a couple of years ago where Corbyn was criticising, as well he should, Israel's foreign policy, right? And anyone, you can't argue that. Their foreign policy is apparent, like, and it's perpetuates whatever.
Netanyahu, man, is a...
We won't get into it again because we had to do a couple of edits the last time.
He's a real jerk.
But there was, this narrative came about because Labour Party were the only party in the UK. Jeremy Corbyn was the only politician in the UK willing to, like, properly, and not some ambiguous, like, sort of veiled, like, sort of, because what's his name? Fucking Bobo came out with, like, Boris Johnson came out with at some point some letter, blah, blah, blah. But when he read the letter, it was like, no, we're not actually going to hold you accountable for anything.
There's no strong language or whatever.
Exactly, it's just like so totally ambiguous and blah, and just sort of language that sort of makes sense, like, about common blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is that Jeremy Corbyn, for me, is one of the only members of the institution that would turn around and go, no, this is bullshit. Yous are human rights violators, and what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank is a disgrace.
Abhorrent, yeah.
And I mean, we'll get into that again, but
just on that, is he? Because I do one thing I want to, because they brought up all this stuff during the election about his.
They said he was anti-Semitic.
Anti-Semitic, and that, or that he hadn't taken strong enough steps against anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and I never really.
So here's the thing: I never really either. Is the truth that you, Glenn, or sorry, Glenn, Len.
Glenn's the other guy I did the other podcast with.
But
on Tuesdays.
I never, like, it's just almost, for me, it just smacked of, like, that anti-defamation league narrative, like, criticise Israel, you're a fucking anti-Semite, and it's just like, no, we're criticising your foreign policy, criticising the way you murder women and children, and, you know...
Doesn't matter what,
it's not about your religion, or the Holocaust, or anti-Semitism, or any of this shit. So he gets sort of, and fucking who chimes in? But Tony fucking Blair... Well, when I was the head of Labour, we would have accepted...
It's like you were in the room.
Yeah, we would have accepted none of this sort of stuff. And I just like, aren't you a fucking war criminal? You want to get on your high horse about a man who's criticising disgusting foreign policy and...
There's literally footage of him flying over Iraq with his big fucking ears.
He's a fucking war criminal. I don't give a fuck what you say. And it's just like, who the fuck are you, mate? Shut the fuck up. And there's the thing, that's just, for me, this just galvanises that idea we talked about last week. It's just like the narrative for the US is just like, we just want to get back to the land of the free and the home of the brave like we were in 2015. No, you're right back where you were. You're shooting each other in the fucking streets.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean?
You just want to forget about that huge chunk of people, like you say, what you said last week about the two countries or whatever, and you just want to forget about those 70 million odd or whatever number of people who you didn't have to think about for
just,
fucking
years
not
think
years.
About them,
It's like, can't they just crawl back into the woodwork?
Yeah, what's wrong with these people? Aren't they satisfied with no amenities and education and infrastructure and industry and their, fuck you.
Do you know, you're absolutely right, man. There's, and not to about the gun control thing, not to I mean, I totally believe in gun control. I don't like guns. I mean, I think in an ideal society, there should, you should be able to, like, what, you should be able to, I mean, maybe you shouldn't be able to leave your property, but in theory, you should be able to own, if you want to own a big fucking machine gun and shoot up pumpkins in your backyard, well, who should really be able to stop you doing that? But what the thing that gets me is every time there's one of these mass shootings, and the media goes crazy over it, and every time it's somebody trying to top the next thing, and they've always got, like, who's your man? Do you remember when we were over there and who's your man in Vegas?
What the fuck ever happened with that?
Crazy fucking shit.
What the fuck ever happened with that?
What do you mean? Is in what?
Like, how come we never failed? How come nothing ever happened about that Vegas shooting?
Well, no, he killed himself, I'm pretty sure, didn't he? He was up in the hotel room. He had
we never saw any footage of him. Something was suspect to that at the time.
I remember
there was something suspect about that at that time. I seen some crazy footage at that time. And I was going down a fucking conspiracy, but only reason, like a conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but only reason I was like, what the fuck happened there? How come we never saw a photo of the guy bringing all the guns and ammunition, the fucking, apparently hundreds of pounds of weapons and ammunition up we never saw anything.
Movement, I think, trying to not shine any light on the shooters.
Because
To not motivate.
It's not that I'm looking to shot. Like, I don't want to fucking.
I know,
I remember
like, put
seeing
him
a
up on a
photograph.
pedestal and go, there goes one of
Even
God's
for-
great warriors
For
or something.
example, the snow shooter, I can find the two people who got shot.
Yeah.
They won't release a picture of that guy.
In a way, because if they did it for the...
Really strange. I don't know what.
Yeah, I mean, I
Like-
sort of understand that, or let's say I understand the thing about the Vegas shooting less. It's just like, I don't want to fucking, you know, some sensationalized tabloid-esque, you know, recount of where this guy was from, like some sort of Unabomber profile.
Yeah.
But I want to know what the fuck actually happened.
But
What
in
Netflix is for.
a way, man...
Why?
In a,
They'll do a documentary on it.
in a way,
Okay.
though,
But I mean-
they always say that, like, every time there is one of these shootings, they're always trying to top the kill count of the last guy. So I think there was some kind of... I don't know whether there was some law...
Keep it suppressed so that no one can sort of go, oh, he killed 250, I'm going to go off and kill 350.
That's it. And like you say, man, same with the guy who shot the people in the snow. These are guys who have serious mental health issues. They're in total ruts. Their lives are, like, I can guarantee you, their lives are not going well. And they decide, you know what, I'm if this is the only way I can matter. Like, it's so dark. It's not even worth going into what their mentality is. But that's definitely a part of it, that they're like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to take as many people with me as I can. And every time this happens, people go on about the crazy libertarian gun laws over there, which are mental, which are crazy. But there's never a mention of, well, maybe we need to have some kind of resources for these people
100%.
so that they
And
don't, this isn't the solution to them. Is that what you want? You just want a nation full of people who are like, God, I'd kill 50 to 100 people with a machine gun if only I could get my hands on one. No,
No,
you don't want
you want to
that.
deal with
You
what...
need to address that problem
Yeah,
as well.
they do seem, the Americans seem to have, like, en masse mental health issue. I'm telling you, I said this before, and I say it about the Australians and the Americans, they're not meant to be there. They're not indigenous to the land. It's like their brains are getting cooked inside their heads. They're just like,
interesting.
just like, because they're like, that's where you see that sort of behavior, that antisocial, ultra macho aggression and violence is in between amongst white males.
Yeah.
Is Australia and America.
And I think it's to do
You don't
with...
get that in other places.
I think you're right. I think it's to do with the reprisal anxiety thing. It's like, you know the way...
It's a settler colonialist thing.
Right, but it's like every American horror film, or the classic American horror film, it's always like a house on an Indian burial ground, right?
Right.
And in a way, isn't that kind of the perfect metaphor? Like, that's what they always say, horror films, like The Shining, I mean, Get Out would be such a good example.
Get Out is so
they
fucking good.
always tickle, like actual, or they play on or exacerbate actual kind of anxieties that people have, right? The killers in the house.
thing there that you just said about the Indian radio, that's so good, because that's actually so iconic, or iconic's the wrong word, but
Stereotypical almost, you know?
237's a documentary on it.
Yeah, that talks about it,
On
yeah.
The Shining, it talks about
oh
Indian
yeah,
burial
I
ground
think I've seen a bit of that Room 237.
But there's the idea that, you know, oh, we live in this big, beautiful house on a hill, which is America, the shining city, but it's built on the graves of
blood
dead Indians, and they're gonna fucking get
on
their
the
own
skulls
back.
of those kids that we staved in.
You know, that we wrapped up in blankets, fucking infected with smallpox, so we could take the right in and take their land. And that shit happened, man, in Dakota. I'm pretty
it's
sure.
awful.
Yeah,
There's a guy called D. Brown, and D. Brown is a Native American historian. And I came to know about D. Brown because there's a series of books written by, and I think I said this to you before, written by Larry McMurtry. And Larry McMurtry then wrote...
Alert.
It's a year too late. That's don'tnamedem.org.
Oh, cool,
Okay, right,
cool,
don'tnamedem.org. And again, I'm not, but like we already know, I can't remember what that Las Vegas shooter's name, we knew what his name was, we saw a picture. It's just like, how come we didn't see any of the, like, explain exactly what happened? Like, I know this, I remember seeing footage that looked like there was a lad just running around shooting people in the crowd.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that was what was happening, but I was just like, do you remember? There was something suspect about
He was picking people off from a hotel room, as far as I remember. And I remember seeing a
That was the
photograph.
narrative.
Yeah.
The narrative. But you know, where was the grassy knoll? That's what I want to know.
Do you know what's funny, man? As well, I remember having this discussion with a friend.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Garth Brooks did it.
That's why he didn't come play those gigs.
But because he was busy. But it's like that.
Staging a mother.
Do you remember that shit that happened down in Cork? There was it towards the end of last year, and there is a morbid fascination to it, and there is also an element of.
Are you talking about now, when you say that thing in Corkland, are you talking about the young man and his father who conspired and conspired to and actually did kill?
It's like a murder-suicide pact against the brother.
Funny you should say that because...
Or something. See, I don't even know, man. I have no idea.
So what happened was, the dad and the youngest son and the dad conspired to kill the oldest son, who had been granted the property basically because
it was the mother's property.
It was the mother's family farm, and the older son got it. So I mean, I just thought that was the fucking one of the most insane things I'd ever heard. I have a son. And my son is and like sometimes I want to shoot him. No. Like, that's like the only thing. Anyway. Like, it's the only thing. Like, he's the only thing that I love more than myself. And, like, the idea of, killing him is just, like, so fucking out there and untangible or whatever. But that you would conspire against another one of your children to do that is just, like... Holy shit. But another thing that I found interesting, and I meant to say this last week, is when we talked about that young man, George and Kencho, who shot outside his home. There were gunshots fired down in Cork. They spent 4 or 5 hours putting that house to siege, trying to communicate, shouting up, "Hello, can we have someone to talk to?" 4 or 5 hours they did that before they decided, right, we're going to go in. And you could dress that up under the, like, where they had a gun and shots had been fired and it's emergency response and all that. But at the same time, if you can wait 4 or 5 hours outside their house to figure out what the fuck is going on, how come they couldn't let that guy, George and Kencho, walk into his house and put the place to siege until they resolved the situation?
Jesus, man, you see, I thought it was all resolved. I thought the mother discovered them or something.
No, the mother heard the shots.
Yeah.
And she ran to a neighbor. 6 o'clock in the morning, she heard the gunshots in the house, ran to a neighbour's house to call the guards. They shot the fuck out of him. Like, blew him apart, apparently. Yeah. And then went up into the ferry ring, up in the ferry field there, whatever, and shot each other, murder-suicide pact, whatever the fucking thing was. But anyway... So
the fairies told them to do it.
Yeah.
Case closed. But,
that's the classic.
Which, the more you say about the George and Kencho thing, man, the more I'm like, the more I realise I willfully kind of ignored so much stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Sometimes you have to, though. And I don't mean to sound like I don't mean ignore stuff, but sometimes for me, there's only so much sort of shitty news and shitty stuff that I can take on
board, yeah.
Because the other side of that is, like, then to effectively process it and deal with it and be the change you want to see, you can't, like, if it gets too clogged, you're just gonna go, oh, I'm saturated with fucking misery here. I'm gonna just disconnect. I'm gonna smoke a joint or have a beer or whatever the fucking thing is. And sometimes we need to do that. So I definitely.
But that's a better solution than where I get the other thing, and it's a little bit like the reprisal anxiety thing, but it's that sort of guilt. The other way to do it, and, you know, is it a reprisal anxiety thing? Is it a, you know, liberal guilt, white liberal guilt thing? Is to go the other way and to decide, I don't like feeling that isn't just the white liberal guilt, it's for such a variety of things. It's like, I don't like feeling this, so I'm going to push against it. I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to get angry about the fact that this is being played out to me. Do you know that kind of way? And a lot of people, that's where you see all that toxic shit online, where people decide, and, you know, obviously a big fucking thing over in America, where people decide that actually they get so... they feel so ratty, and they can't handle the shame of being told that, you know, that they might have some culpability in this that's going on. So they just said, fuck it then. Fuck you, I'm going to join the Proud Boys, or I'm going to fucking...
Yeah, it's not like necessarily that I'm fully with that. I'm just revolting against this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, this is the only alternative.
I'm gonna willfully choose what I, on some level, know to be a load of bullshit, just because believing that gives me peace of mind, I suppose, in a way, or makes me...
Sense of power, but like personal power.
Yeah, reality is too hard to face.
Okay,
so
yeah,
I'm gonna choose to do that. Yeah, very, very fucking sad or whatever. But yeah, man, I remember. It's funny about the killers thing and about whether you should face up to that. Like you say, on one hand, there is this kind of morbid fascination, which is fucking natural.
Yeah.
With that abject
And that's tied
shit.
into our own sense of mortality and stuff like that.
Of course it is, man. Like fucking sex and death. That's like I was saying to Rob about that Gangs of London. You watch that Gangs of London series?
It's pretty brutal.
It's
But
man.
shite though as well. No.
You didn't like it.
I'm looking at these two soft boys and I'm going, am I meant to believe that you fucking are going around shooting dudes in the head? No. But anyway, moving on.
No, the one thing I want to say about the violence is that it creates a... Because I genuinely found myself not actually with a hard on at the end of watching one of these episodes. I was watching them with my mum as well. But anyway, not... But afterwards, I would be kind of... You were in this fucking...
He's like, want to go out and punch someone in the neck?
In a way, but there's a genuine sexual element to it. And I was like, what the fuck why is this? And I kind of realised right now, look...
So
let me
you
finish.
Actually did get horny.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. When I say the violence would give you the horn, I mean it genuinely would give you the horn, right? And this is the thing.
You're like, this is like Crash.
Right. This is like American Psycho shit,
yeah,
right?
I'm not talking. Remember the original Crash with James Spader?
The David Lynch one.
And they'd fuck the holes in people's legs and arms. And
See, this is the thing, right? Now, there's that, right, that's a J.G. Ballard, which I might get onto in a sec now. That there's one thing he said, which is really interesting about sex and violence on TV, and that is good. That's pretty much it. But, there it is, I said it. But, I said it. But it made me think something really interesting, which
Your
is that...
college friends will not be happy with
if you see, right, like if you see, like, okay, your man in that Gangs of London getting his head blown off or whatever, if you think you want to fuck the stump, that's bad, okay? But seeing death,
a little shoot of electricity through your crotch.
a little run right from your bottom of your asshole right up your spine. But if you see death, that's like a very natural, it's like a very primal thing for us. Like if we were out with the tribe or the pack or whatever in the fucking frozen wasteland scouting for food, and suddenly a saber-toothed tiger descends and mauls 6 of your mates, and fucking the other 8 of you escape and hide out in a cave, it's a very natural thing for your brain to be like, all right, turn the randiness on because we need to make babies and repopulate because 6 people just fucking died. The sex and death drives are extremely closely related. That's how I live with myself.
Yeah,
right?
that's
how I live with myself.
Look, you're not a freak. There's nothing wrong with getting an erection when you're watching explicitly violent programs on TV. You should think of the saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah, think of the saber-toothed tigers.
Okay.
All I remember that from an episode of Cracker. That's all I remember. Cracker's a fucking deadly series. Robbie
Coltrane, that's sweet. Anyway, because like we were saying there about the Biden thing, it doesn't look like when you look at stuff like that it's any different over there now. And again, it's just like this. The narrative in the last 6 months, especially in the run up to the latest election, is like, oh, excuse me, Joe Biden.
It's time, lad.
Joe Biden, the great... Oh, sorry, mate. Joe Biden, the great white hope almost. And it's like, this guy is a geriatric interventionist war criminal who's obsessed with the industrial military complex and the national security state.
Yeah. He took the train into the Senate, though.
Fuck off.
Well, see, look, this is my thing, man. I think he can be all those things and also do some good stuff. You know what I mean?
But that's like saying...
I'm all about the plurality fucking thing. You know?
Yeah, but that's too much of a cop-out. It's just like yeah, sure, that guy, is a child molester, but he also... He set up this great program for elderly people. You know,
he also spent a lot of time with sick children.
He had the keys to the hospital and everything. What a stand-up dude. But then, because the other side of it is that he has a vice. The VP for Joe Biden is
Kamala Harris. Yeah.
Kamala Harris, and I mean, again, it's like this might be. Google, just type into Google there, Kamala Harris prison system or something, because apparently Kamala Harris is a total hardcore bitch for the privatise, what does Dave DeGraw, is that his name? Dave DeGraw is a fucking stupid singer, is he? I'm thinking of a guy
Dave Grohl, you're thinking of.
Who?
Dave Grohl is the singer.
No, I'm thinking of a guy who's a sort of alternative economist. He would have started the Occupy movement and the 1% movement, and he calls the prison system in America a tyrannical conveyor belt of incarceration. And apparently Kamala Harris is a real champion of the private
Look, man, there's not a politician.
Prison industry.
There's
But
not a
again,
politician
it's just
who's
that
fucking clean. Maybe the
I
AOC.
know
I
there's
don't
not a
know.
politician that's clean, but there's a difference between being, I just think that that's the most extreme, and this is getting sold to us the whole time. The narrative is like, hey, this is a really good guy. Joe Biden's a really good guy, and he's got this African American female vice president. And again, it's like the thing last week with Leo Varadkar, and you look at like Barack Obama, what a slick looking motherfucker, and maybe he even smoked a couple of joints back in college, but at the end of the day, he's obsessed with the drone program. He's an aide to Henry Kissinger straight out of college. He's a Wall Street goon. He is them. Yeah, he's them. He's not.
He had more more of his advisors came from Goldman Sachs than any other fucking
Right, so
president.
he's a total Wall Street goon, Obama, and so
fuck them and their personalities,
I know,
man.
but
It's about it's about making them do what
that's not
we
his
want them to do.
personality.
Yeah.
That's not his personality. That's his. That's the way he is. They're his ideals. They're the people he looks out for. That's the policy The policy he makes affects them positively and the working classes negatively, or the people who live. The policy on drone programs obviously affects the brown people in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and the 90% non-intended targets that we discussed before.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And here's Kamala Harris. It's like she's black, she's female. It's just like she's also into incarcerating young black men. She champions a system that is totally designed and constructed to incarcerate young black men in a country that has the greatest prison population in the world. Yeah. I saw an amazing documentary there on Netflix. I watched it last week.
Is it?
No, it was called Crack. It's about crack.
Shit, she's
Kamala Harris has spent 27 years enforcing laws that target black and brown communities through mass incarceration. These laws include the 3 strikes laws implemented in 1994 and the stop and frisk policy. Yeah. That's what you're up against, and that's that sort of idea of on paper how diverse and progressive it is, when the reality of it is that they suck the devil's dick. Yeah. She's sucking on the devil's dick.
See, but do you need is the system such that you?
If they're making the system, if they're in charge of the system, if they're if they're the people who are, I can't remember. If they're the stewards of the system, and they're there to implement policy for the better of the electorate, and this is the shit they pull, and it's just it's that sort of like smoke and mirrors thing, and like where between what on paper it looks like it should be and the reality of it. And like we know that the independent prison system in America is worth fucking billions of dollars, and they lobby in governments to create laws that fucking perpetuate the situation. And it started to, we know more about that now because it started to spill into white communities. Yeah. Like, these disenchanted people, they're all taken to fucking PCP and crystal meth or whatever the version of. But the thing about crack, this documentary Crack, and they touch on it in another documentary called The House I Live In, which for anyone who has...
David Simon, yeah.
David Simon, that's right. David Simon is...
the guy created The Wire, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, and along with Ed
an
Barnes,
investigative journalist in Baltimore who saw firsthand for years, he was an investigative journalist in Baltimore who saw firsthand the effects and the realities of the war on drugs in America. And like, there are, like, it's just like, what's the minimum mandatory stuff like this? Like, that stuff is crazy, and you're sort of going, Jesus, man, it sort of does look like they've designed that whole system to keep young black males in prison. And this documentary Crack on Netflix hammers that home. Yeah. It's just like for number one, like, and there's just a touch on a couple of things that are said in this documentary Crack, because Jesus Christ, they were interesting. 2/3 of the people who used crack were white. 100% of the people imprisoned for crack through the crack trade were black. You get caught with 1 gram of crack cocaine is the equivalent of 100 grams of cocaine.
Yeah, in terms of time.
And they know 100%
yeah.
white, affluent, recreational drug users
cocaine.
use cocaine, and poor motherfuckers, and not all of which, as we just said, 2/3 of which were white, use crack. And yet the system is designed to put black men in jail, or black people in jail, but it's mainly black men, I think. The other thing, and this is where you start to go, wait, what? That didn't really happen. And I would love someday, and it would take a lot of research, but someday I would like to do a podcast on the CIA. But in the 80s, when crack became a thing, at the same time, Ronald Reagan was trying to raise money through the Senate to fund the Contras in their, fight for freedom against the Sandinistas. Now, I don't know enough about the Sandinistas and the Contras, but I'm under the impression, I sort of get the idea that the Contras are lunatics as well.
They were, who's your man? The
Noriega.
They were military. Noriega, exactly. Yeah. They were military fucking coup. Yeah,
but any sort of military, US military back coup, I'm sort of going, are they the good guys? Who's the good guys?
It's always like, was it Kissinger said when whenever they back some fucking brutal dictator down in South America or in Southeast Asia or in Africa, and they'd be like, he'd say he's
the Middle East
or the Middle East, and be like, yes, he's a total bastard, but he's our total bastard or whatever. I'm paraphrasing there from that.
Yeah, but that's exactly the sort of thing.
That's exactly the sort. We control him. Yeah, he fucks over his own people, but he keeps the minerals or keeps the bananas.
Yeah, but the thing about it is like, well, how could you say anything about him? Like at that time, right? Yeah. Reagan went to get money through the Senate. And the Senate said, no, we're not intervening and setting up another fucking coup in Central America or wherever the fuck it is. So what he did was he took weapons and he sold them to Iran. He took the profits from them weapon sales and funneled it down to the Contras via the CIA through weapons, etc.
American Made or whatever, that Tom Cruise movie kind
of
touches on it a bit. It is
Tom
actually
Cruise,
good.
It's one of the only things I really like Tom Cruise in.
A rare role for him where he's like...
contemporary movies of Tom Cruise is that I'm like, oh, Jesus, he's really fucking good in that.
Obviously Risky Business, come on, Untouchable. But
but all like I said, the contemporary shit.
Yeah.
And as a byproduct of that then, they were allowing these Central American countries to flood cocaine into America via CIA planes and everything, and out of that, like if you watch that documentary Crack, you're like going, Jesus motherfucking Christ, they invented crack cocaine to just fucking flood these impoverished, predominantly black areas. It's just so fucked up, man. It's so fucked up, and that's like, I would never go back to. Oh, let me just say, I have been to the US. We've got a little story now to tell you here.
All right.
I'm lucky I made it out of the US alive.
Oh shit, man! I fucking think I remember this, man. Yeah. Call it a Jeffrey.
Was lucky to get
and
out
he
of
shit
there.
himself.
So I was in. We were in a band, the Cujo family, and
it's all coming back to him now.
We at one point entered a battle of the bands, the King Kong Club, run by a funny gentleman by the name of Kieran Black. Sort of American, real racy, hey, what's happening, guy? Real, fair play to him, full energy.
Yeah, I remember that dude.
But we won this battle of the bands, and the main prize was we would go to the States for a Paddy's Day week and play 5 gigs around New York. And man, oh man, I tell you, for me, because of all the years of playing music with the Cujo family, that was the time that really looked like it could go either way for us. You know what I mean? Because we were popular and on our day, we were really good. I'll tell you, right, just because this will give you an idea for... We won the Battle of the Bands, and we were the people who went to New York. But as another little side gig, all the finalists went to play a couple of gigs in London, and we all went to London together. And like, we had won the Battle of the Bands, and we were shite. Honestly, over in London, it was actually embarrassing. Like, at one point, me and William snorted a whole gram of cocaine in one hit and fell through the door of this. I swear to God, I'll never forget it. We were talking to homeless lads on the street and everything, getting up to the gig. And we get up to the gig, and I started crying while I'm playing the drums, I'm bawling my eyes out going, I'm too fucking out of it, we're too crap or something. William fell through the drum kit. And all of these people who had, and these guys were good. All these other bands were good. And I'm telling you, we were the best on our day, but those days were sometimes few and far between because we were fucking nuts.
The pressure wasn't on, yeah.
And so I remember looking at, or the next day thinking, like, we came over here as the winners, you know what I mean? And we fucking, like, conducted ourselves like that. I got thrown out of a pub we were doing a gig in before the gig started. I was barred in this thing. So,
I think that's almost even more of a fuck you. But anyway, yeah.
We go over to the States, and let me just say this much, that it was a real, like, William, Rob's brother, obviously, and Gav brought their girlfriends, and that for me, that was sacrilegious. I was just like, you fucking scumbags, we've been working towards this forever long. And because it was like, now, we're not all... Yeah, well, it's a bit like that, though. And they bring in their mots, and, like, Chantal's bringing William up to some, you know, penthouse on the Upper East Side.
Oh, of course, you know.
Isolde's taking Gav off to some trendy place in Williamsburg, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm with Joni and Hook in what... And so I'm already a bit humpy. I'll get to that. I've already got the hump a little bit. I'm a bit like, fuck's sake, because even we get on the plane, and Gav's over there talking to sitting with his ma, and Will's back there with Chantal. And obviously I love Hook and Joni or whatever, but at the same time, it's like, these are my boys. You know what I mean? Because we grew, like, you know, whatever the thing was. And so I was having a couple of drinks on the plane, and the next thing you can hear this fucking hullabaloo a few rows back, and it's William and Chantal having a Barney on the plane. Don't give a fuck, right? So they're having a Barney. Next thing, William just walks up and goes, I swear to God, this fucking gangster. He's like, here, Joni, go back to her, will you? And Joni's just like, yeah, no problem, Will.
Sort her out.
Yeah, that was it, sort that bitch out. And Joni's like, yeah, no problem, William. And she gets up and goes back, and Will sits there, and I was like, are we going to have a fucking, like, let's get drunk then. And he was like, yeah, come on, fuck it. And we start banging the whiskies out of us, and every once in a while, Chantal would come up and maybe, like, try and punch him in the face or something. I don't know. There'd be some like, he's just gotta get drunk then, is it? And we're like, yeah, fuck off. We get off the plane. She's still going mad. Gavin is all there like, we're out. We're not dealing with you cunts. We're out. They get in their taxi to Williams. Me and William are drunk at this stage. We're drunk. And I remember Chantal got into a fucking white stretched limo and was just like, fuck you then, William. And he was just like, oh, whatever. We go up to this place where we're meant to be staying. It's a hostel. People live there. And that was, like, people fucking live. And there's 40 people living in a room twice the size of this, all in bunk beds. They get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. They don't come home till 12 o'clock at night. They're just working to survive. Well, so we get there, right? And it's already bad because we're pissed. We're pissed. We turn up at this place. And, like, people are living there just trying to get through the evening before they have to go and get a little bit of sleep and go to work. And we're like, yeah. And we're just like, where's the bar? And they just sort of go that way, fuck off, leave us alone, basically. So we walk up to this bar, and it's up in Brooklyn. It's all gentrified. This is 2010, but it's still, like Crown Heights was gentrified at that stage. Now, obviously, Harlem's Harlem and whatnot. But it's like fucking Phibsborough almost up in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like, it's Stony Batter. Exactly. Yeah. So we get up there and we're in this bar and we're pissed. And I start going, because I'm a big stoner, and I'm like going, anyone got any weed? And this big tall black dude's like, yeah, I got some weed. I was like, okay, cool, bro. What's the story? And he's like, it's 0.6 of a gram for $50. And I was just like, Jesus, yeah, I think I'm all right for that, actually. Because we're pissed at this stage. And then I swear to God, this is where it gets bizarre. Next thing, yo, you're from Bray, right? And we're in fucking Brooklyn. And I turn around and it's this short, blonde, stocky cunt. And he's like, you're from Bray, right? I've been looking all over for you. And I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about, mate? He's like, yeah, I'm friends with Gavin. I lived in Bray years ago. My name's Jason. I knew you were coming here today. I'm looking all over Brooklyn for you motherfuckers. I was like, get the fuck out of here. He's like, yeah, this is my bro. And he's got this sort of small black dude with him. I was like, yeah, what's happening? How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And it's surreal. Like, you're from Bray, right? You're that guy. You're in the band. I know Gavin. I come see you guys. And then he's like, what you need, bro? What you need? I was like, what you mean? He's like, I got that weed. I got that coke. I was like, yeah, great. I need some weed. 100% I need a bag of weed. I was like, some motherfuckers just after trying to sell me 0.6 of a gram for $50. And Jason Lazary, never forget it. Jason Lazary's black friend just got, yeah, that motherfucker try to rip you off, yo. Next thing, big tall black lad's back. I'm selling this motherfucker weed. Nah, boy. This is our boy, yo. He came from Bray. You try to rip him off. As soon as he got here, you try to rip him off. That's disrespect, man. You ain't selling shit, motherfucker. Two black lads start taking their jackets off, right? And I'm there going to Jason, what's going on here? Yeah, they're going to fight it out, yo. Going to have to fight that shit out. And I was like, no. Next thing, these two black lads start punching the fucking head off each other. I'm not talking in the bar. I'm not talking like two Mongos rolling around on the ground down outside Martello, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking two black dudes fucking lamping the head off each other. And like, we're in this trendy bar and they're like, your friends are destroying the place. I'm like, I don't even know these people. Never met them for my life.
Not the calfskin vellum lampshades.
That starts getting a bit dark. Like, starts getting a bit dark. It's like, yeah, we're going to get our peace and all this. And I was just like, oh my God. And William's with me at this stage. And then your man Jason's just like, yo, we got to go. Take that. We'll see him later in the week. And at that, he gives me 2 8 balls of cocaine and one, it must have been an ounce of weed.
Jesus
I swear to God, I'm there fucking 4 hours.
Trying to get through this stuff.
And that was that. No, number one, best cocaine I ever took in my life. And the weed was the best, most delicious fucking weed I ever smoked in my life. Wow. So, like, I remember, I think at one point, because I think I was going home, I can't remember where Will went at this stage, but I think I was going home on my own, and I bumped into Joni and Hook on the side of the road, and I was like, oh, let's get all this coke and this weed. And then we bumped into these other kids, and one of them looked like Phil Lynott. Next thing, I'm back in this apartment snorting coke with this guy, and I'm telling you look like Phil Lynott.
It's like, it's the 50th time you told me that, yeah.
The next day, right, we go to this gig, and I break off a little bit of the weed, and we break off, maybe I take one of the bags of coke, and I've definitely got coke and weed stashed in my gaff in the room, right? And we go and do a gig, and we do the gig, and I fucking hoosh a load of cocaine into my nose in the toilet, and you're like, this is cocaine, bruh. Hell of a drug. And I'm walking out to Jackson Hook's like going, hey, he's about bang off that coke. And like, I swear to God, I wouldn't have
you're the bass player, Hook.
But I was just like, no, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm going for a ramble. I'm going to talk shit. And I go outside, and like, I would have just walked out with that cocaine in my pocket, no problem. Never would. If I hadn't met Hook and if he hadn't have said to me, here, give me that coke, I would have just walked out of the place with that cocaine. And I'm standing there on the side of the road, and this guy goes, I'm standing there chatting to God knows who, and I'm having a cigarette, and a guy goes, an Irish guy turns around and goes, oh, you from Bray, are you? And like, this is the second night I'm there, and I'm going, what the fuck, man? Yeah, I'm from Bray. Where? And he's like, yeah, I spent a bit of time in Bray. I know that accent, like, and I was like, Jesus Christ, my head's blown. This is the second night I'm in New York, second fucking stranger to come up to me and go, you from Bray? And this motherfucker's smoking a joint. He's like, here, have it blasted up. And I swear to God, I go like that. And the cops, boom, there's fucking cops everywhere. And like, you know, with the classic, got the New York City cop badge on the chain, like with the fucking just jeans and a sweat top on or whatever. And they're just like, you're under arrest. And I was like, no.
Shit.
No. I was like, why am I under arrest? Like, you're smoking ganja. And I was like, come on, man. I don't have any drugs on me. I'll come out here, I'm smoking a cigarette. Guy starts talking to me, offers me a joint. I take it, and then you're fucking here. And they're like, yeah, that's fair enough. We've seen that, so maybe we'll have. Sarge comes along. Nah, everyone in the fucking paddy wagon. I get arrested, brought down to this precinct. They take my mugshot. Talking like it's hours later. What?
You got a copy?
I went online to try and find it because there's like mugshot.org and stuff like this. Because I would fucking do anything
to get arrested
that,
again.
No, to get that mugshot. Because honestly, think about this time. If I'd have walked out that door with that coke in my pocket and then I get arrested and found with that coke in my pocket.
Fuck off, gone. Yeah.
Gone. And when I think about that house I live in, I have a criminal record here for weed, basically. But I got like. But when I was a little kid, 16 years of age with quarter, something to get JLO, the junior liaison officer for that. My mum had to bring me down and get the JLO. Then maybe, you know, at a festival, get caught with another few joints. At one point in my life, I got caught with a big bag of weed, right? If we'd have been in the States, you watch in that house I live in documentary, there's a guy who gets caught with an ounce of crystal meth because the place he lived in or the place he worked in gets shut down. He's unemployed, he's disenchanted, he starts smoking crystal meth. He can't afford it, so he makes a bit. Gets caught with the ounce, goes to jail for his whole fucking life because in his teens he'd been caught. He goes to jail for his whole life. They're interviewing him. His mum is like, it's like he's dead. Yeah. Because I can never touch him
Once
again.
You're in the system, you're in the system.
But no, she can never touch him again. Like, that's what she means by that. She's like, it's as if he's dead. I'm grieving my son because he just lives in a fucking box. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies,
Yeah.
the anti-war left and black people. Former Nixon domestic policy chief
Drugs.
John Ehrlichman, he's probably fucking a Nazi from Operation Paperclip.
Well, in fact, is
What?
he actually?
He what?
No, he's during the Watergate break-in and all.
Oh yeah. But this, in fairness, this guy
Former Nixon-
flipped. Like, he's saying this stuff because he later went like, we were fucking.
You understand
horrible.
what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalising both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. That's exactly the same thing in the 80s with the crack. Ehrlichman said we could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. Of course we did.
Fair play to him now for coming forward.
But yeah, I thought that was my going to the States story. I will never, ever go back to the States.
Is that right? You can't go back.
I wouldn't go back.
You wouldn't go
Not
back.
for diamonds.
Yeah.
Sure, I think
I
some-
broke up with them.
Handy because you can't.
No, Ribbon. You didn't quit. You were fired.
You're not kicking me out. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Get your hands, yes. It's like
What-
it's
what
not
I'm
like getting
sa-
thrown out of a club. I'm walking out the front door of America.
I had to
Yeah.
I had to get a lawyer to go to court for me by proxy because it happened after I'd left then, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I did try and sew it all up because back then I had some great ideas of going to America or whatever, maybe, I don't know. But I wouldn't go back there even on a holiday. Sure, what about that Irish guy who overstayed on his J1? He goes over to the States and they stick him in a fucking ICE prison cell for 2 days waiting to deport him. I'm just like, that alone.
We have a
doing it.
friend can never go back now, I'm pretty sure, because he overstayed.
Yeah, good luck. They're fucking eating each other over there. Good luck to them.
Unless your fucking surname is Campbell and your daddy drives a Bentley and fucking
Yeah, of
you know,
course,
yacht
yeah.
and whatever else, then you can do whatever the fuck.
So we do. I want to try and barrel through a few quick ones there.
Just at 120 just today.
Okay, so we're gonna try and wrap it up in the next. I don't know. So funny, right? Because I have a thing there. In fact, we're gonna know that can come in another time, a different one. Around the same time, this is. I swear to God, man. I'm a person like, you want to get laid, get in a rocking band.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cliche for a reason, bro.
Getting a rocking band.
Getting a rocking
One
band,
of them,
you'd be
yeah.
fucking beating off the pussy. I swear to God.
Yeah.
That's the only time in my life I actually had sex. Because if I saw a vagina now, I'd probably put a plaster on it. But back then, no, I'd call the woman an ambulance. I was like, she's had an accident. But back then, here's the one, right? I had a woman contact me from Australia on Facebook because there was a video of us playing on a subway, I think, that only saw the light of day for about 24 hours, and then maybe it was in a documentary, subsequent documentary. But out of that, some Australian woman had seen that somehow on the, so this is the story, and I'm going to ask you a question. Right. This is the narrative. Australian woman, she contacts me one day, she tells me she's seen you on the thing, I think you're real hot, it's making my pussy wet.
What can I do about it?
Right, this is
a real problem for me.
2010, right? So
It's what are you even thinking about me?
this is
making my
before we
pussy
even
wet?
knew about catfishing or anything shit like that. But what I
Oh yeah.
So I often, even now years later, I think about this situation. This Bjor was obviously fucking nuts, and part of me is thinking maybe it wasn't even a Bjor, maybe it was someone playing a trick on me. But if it was someone playing a trick on me, where's the prestige? Do you know what I mean? Almost, because
Where was the payoff? Yeah.
I used this woman, whatever way it snowballed into this thing, this woman used to ring me up on Skype. And I would masturbate down the phone while she did the same thing. But she wouldn't show me herself in certain ways. But I was always like, I don't care, I'm just going to jerk off over the camera here. But some of the stuff, just because I was only thinking about catfish recently, some of the stuff this chick used to say.
Fucking crazy. It's just like, I saw you in that subway video. I told him, the drummer.
Oh, man.
The drummer, I'm going to Skype him.
Some of the stuff, I think, okay, so
It's not a Nokia
after the
350.
fact, like, because eventually I had to go, here, look, this was a bit of fun, but you're turning into a nutcase, and so you've ruined it, basically. You've ruined it, because I don't know what's going on here. But I often think back about that, because I got the impression that she was the voice, she was a woman, and the the voice she was saying. But maybe she had like, maybe she'd been in an accident and she was an amputee or something like this because there was.
Okay.
But man, I just was thinking about that. The filth that used to come out of this girl's mouth. The filth. And this is before any of that stuff. And there I was, like a happy spa, just jerking off on Skype. And like someone could have that on video is what I think as well from time to time. It's like, you know, one of these, like, it turns out back in the day he made an insensitive tweet. No, we have a wank video, mate.
She was a Russian agent the whole time.
Oh my God.
Man, yeah. Like, I've kind of given up on it. I started to just think to myself, yeah, like, if they really want to, if I piss off the right people, you know, God willing, and they just go, all right, here's his porn history, and here's fucking this thing he looked up one time. What? I just wanted to know what it would be like. Yeah.
Yeah, one man, one jar. You freak. But oh, stop! I can't even think about that. It's fucking awful. I wanted to try and tidy up a couple of bits from last week. There was two things. I know there was a thing connected to the Versatile because I've said, when I watched it back, I said at one point, like when I look at that guy Casper Walsh, I just think, oh, that's what he's about, and I sort of. But it's not when I look at him. It's more when I see how he conducts himself. You know, when I listen to him and get the whole picture. I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever you're into there yourself, mate. But one thing that occurred to me yesterday when I was looking back is just like, there was a whole deplatform movement and people even tagged management and record companies in those diatribes or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
In those, and Snoop Dogg and all these things. And guess what? The people making money from the situation did nothing. They didn't give a fuck. And they never have to have that conversation. They never have to say, why do you promote or give oxygen to A, B, and C? They never have to have that conversation with us as long as we're screaming at each other over who likes Versatile and who likes Erica Cody. So that was just one thing that occurred to me yesterday. It's like, there's big business there. These guys are selling out the O2. They're going on tour with Snoop Dogg. They're monetized YouTube and Facebook accounts or whatever. They generate fucking revenue for someone. And that person is the only person who really has control of what they get to say or do or put out there or publicise. And they did nothing. They did nothing. So it's all very well and good to go, but at the end of the day, again, the money is the winner in that situation. And they're quite content for us to scrap it out amongst ourselves while they still make loads of fucking money.
Yeah, it actually, you're right. It's getting to the point where, like, do you remember the last presidential election?
The one we've just been talking about?
And no, not the American one now. Sorry, this is the Irish one. And do you remember Michael D. Higgins was pretty? Everyone was pretty much like, "What?" It was because of some fucking slip up. He hadn't announced that he was going to run again in time or something like that. But there was a real bevy of other candidates no one had fucking heard of. And then, like 2 or 3 weeks before the election day, one guy just stood up and went, "Fuck travellers." Everyone was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, fuck travellers. That's the whole platform I'm running on. Fuck travellers. If you hate travellers, I'm your guy." And suddenly everyone bombing
Who
bars
has
say,
two thumbs and hates travellers?
yeah,
This guy.
That was literally, and suddenly there's a huge, and everyone's like, go, outrage. But the fucking amount of media attention he got was insane. And as a result, he was kind of, I mean, obviously Michael D. Higgins still won in a landslide, but he was kind of the only dude I'd heard of just because it generated. And it's kind of like, is that where we are now? That it doesn't matter. It's beyond whether we agree with something or not. That's immaterial whether it's right or wrong. It's the fact that we're shouting about it.
Okay,
and
yeah.
the fact that we know about it. That's all that matters to
Because it highlights us.
Yeah.
It pulls us into the zeitgeist.
Into the,
under the microscope. But I thought, and speaking of lawyers, actually, and then we'll talk about gross profits now in a second, but speaking of lawyers, did anyone see the cat filter lawyer thing?
No, the cat, which?
Oh my God, have you not seen that then?
Sorry,
There's a meeting, like it's some council meeting or something.
Yeah.
And the guy's got the cat filter stuck on his face.
Yeah,
And he's just
right.
like, I am here, I'm not a cat. Or something at one point. I was like, oh my God. It's just like the most perfect, like, little instance of, like, some bungling old person running afoul of technology. It's just, he doesn't know how to get it off. And he's like, I'm willing to do the meeting. I'm not a cat. I'm actually here. It's like, oh my God.
He's starting to doubt himself.
You poor sausage. Or he thinks that the people, take me seriously. I'm actually got something to say. I'm not a cat.
Hey, cats have...
Ignore what you see on the screen. It's actually a real human being here.
Close your eyes, everyone. Close your eyes. That's so funny. My daughter put this on.
So, gross profits.
I'll just quickly,
Yeah.
an hour and a half.
We're cutting literally, there's two things left to say. Gross profits. In fact, we mightn't even bother with this one.
Profits are gross.
No, yeah, profits are gross, and we'll talk about it more. But what's the story there? Or in fact, something I want everyone to look into next week, and maybe towards the end of next week's podcast, we could talk about it briefly. Jeff Bezos is standing down as CEO of Amazon because his personal wealth has grown 100 billion. His personal wealth grew
more. It's like 180 or something.
but his personal wealth has grown by 100 billion in 1 year.
Yeah.
I think it was 80 billion and now it's 180 billion.
Yeah.
Amazon did 100 billion in sales in 3 months.
Yeah.
That was their Christmas quarter was 100 fucking billion. And someone said, and so we're looking into it more, but someone was just like going, that's weird. That means something weird's coming down the tracks. Either he did something or he's making way to do another thing. So either he's... it just seems strange. Like, that's the reason why he's stepping down, because
This
he made
company
so much money.
made and everything. Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. It's like, those egotistical fucking lunatics, like, it's a Jordan Belfort thing. It's like,
They don't...
I'm not going. You know, he's built it from the ground up. His ego is so... It's not just about the money and all. His ego and his identity and his self-worth.
Think about your man in Zimbabwe. Who's Zimbabwe, in fact? Mugabe or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Do you remember they were saying he went for election there, and I think it was some rigged up thing, obviously, where he won. But he's like 97, and they were like, if he wins this election, Zimbabwe in 3 years will have a 100-year-old president. And people are kind of like, why is he even bothering? And it's sort of like, this is probably the only thing keeping him alive is the power. If he unhooks himself from the power, he'll probably die within a fucking year. Yeah, exactly. This is the one. Power is like, somebody said that about Biden or whatever, that people are always making jokes about, Biden's going to die and Kamala Harris is just waiting for Biden to die so that she can take over. But as this guy said, like, power, you'd be amazed how long you can live when you think you're in power. Power is like the greatest fucking...
It's vitalic.
Vitalitas, whatever force.
Is that a word, vitalitas?
Fuck it is now, man.
Google
Words.
it.
I'll tell you something. 100% of words are made up, so you can actually...
That's all morons.
That is true, though, man.
All words
are
are made up once upon a time.
Oh. Oh, well, you're just a schmooble. So that's all I got to say. Yeah.
There's an Instagram page I look at these days, only recently, called Outdoorsky, and it's basically the fucked up animal kingdom. Like, at the moment, it's rutting season or banging season for the deers, and they're showing these. They're also showing, like, deers with the severed head of another deer. Their opponent, they've actually ripped their opponent's head off, and it's still stuck in their antlers.
Dude, it probably looks like, God, that deer's hardcore. He's probably there going, ah! Get this fucking, can we see this fucking
You want to
thing?
look at this Outdoorsky thing and, like, leopards eating thing, like, it's so fucked up. Yeah. But one of the things, I swear to God, this was the fucking funniest, and it's terrible or whatever, but it's basically a girl in her car in America on a bridge, and there's a deer stuck in their headlights, like, you know, blinded by the lights type thing, and the deer sort of like this. She's like, come on, just move out of the way, little dearie deer. And the deer sort of looks at that, looks right, and then fucking launches himself off the side of the bridge. Like, I'm talking, it leaped to its death, and she's just like, no! In the car. That's so fucking mental. But this Outdoorsky thing got me thinking of, like, because some of it's brutal, and it's animals doing it to animals. It's animals killing animals, like in the natural animal kingdom way. Yeah. But you're still going, oh my God, I gotta look at that. I went to Thailand when I was about 19, maybe 20, and part of what we did was go to Peter O'Connor's wedding. Big shout out to the O'Connor clan there in Wolf Town. We went to Peter O'Connor's wedding in Thailand, and it was one of the most insane, surreal experiences of my life. In the middle of fucking nowhere. It was fucking amazing. Like, it was amazing. There was a big football game that we played with the whole village. The wedding went on for 3 days of the most solid drinking I've ever done in my life. They had a PA the size of this shed, speakers the size of this shed on the back of a truck going, Island, Thailand, and everyone just go, yeah!
They sound similar.
Fucking mental. And like Peter O'Connor, I remember Peter O'Connor's speech. He was just like, 2 things. Tan, who was the missus that he just got married to, her dad was doing a speech and she was translating it to Peter, and Peter was telling us over the microphone, like, and he'd like to thank this and that, and at one point he's like, and he'd go, blah, 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 and we were just like, like, you're being translated, would you not just say, blah, and then he made his speech, and at the end, he was thanking everyone at the end, he was just like, and I want to thank Ronnie down there in the Bray Credit Union for making all this possible.
Out of you backhanders.
But they killed a pig, man. They fucking killed a pig in this, and we were locked. This is the night before the wedding.
He means a police officer.
We were locked. No, this was like a real pig, a Schweinsteiger. This pig was jammed into a cage that must have been an inch bigger than the pig. Jeez. All the way around. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the pig in the cage. It's late at night. It's the night before the wedding. We're pissed. And they fucking just, like, while talking to you, boom, through the neck.
Hey, Rowan, come over here.
That's what it was like.
That's it.
That's what it was like. The fucking blood started spraying like 2 meters in the fucking air. I'll never forget the noise. The noise of the pig and the rattling of it in this tight constrictive cage. It was fucking brutal. Yeah. It was barbaric. It was horrific. I was crying. It's like, oh, a poor pig. How could you do that to that pig?
When you did this before, I had fucking...
We ate that pig the next day.
Yeah, right.
We ate that pig.
Never put you off meat for a while, or...
We ate that pig the next day, and it galvanised. It was just like, lesson learned. Like, these motherfuckers didn't have a lot of pigs. This was celebratory shit.
Yeah.
You know, they fucking slaughtered the pig for us, cooked it, brought it out the next day. It was the fucking most delicious shit I'd ever eaten at that point in my life. Yeah. And that's a little switch inside my head. Like, I have this argument with my brother who's a vegan. He's like, do you not think it's just like, oh, what did he tell me? I was just like, why don't you just, do you want me to get, how's your vagina? He was saying to me, do you not think it's just like...
Do you want a plaster for that?
He was like, do you not think it's so...
Well, you just explained, you cried. You remember it.
Yeah, but I mean, his thing was like, it's so undignified. This is the word he used, it's so undignified for the animals. It's like, no, I think the exact opposite. I think that's the most dignified... I don't care about this thing anymore. That's sort of the most dignified thing you can do with the animal. It's just like, because it's like, they probably ate the whole fucking thing. It's old school vibes. It's like, that's what I feel now. When I ate that pig, I was just like, do you know what? That was that pig's destiny. It would have been disgraceful for me not to fulfill its destiny.
Okay, the meat industry over here then.
Well, the meat industry over here isn't as bad as it is in the States, for instance. Like, I mean, you could still go to a butcher in this county that has its own abattoir and slaughters its own meat on site. I mean, I don't think we are... Again, you introduce big business into anything, and farming is just the same as anything else. You introduce big business into farming, it's bad news on a lot of levels. For animal welfare, for what we actually end up eating. Like, you ever see that shit where they get the bellies and spines and all types of things of animals and put them in a big centrifugal? This happens over in the States. Like a big washing machine, effectively. And it spins all of this pink, slimy shit off the bones, out through the holes in the centrifugals, right? And then they take that stuff. It's actually toxic because it's come from stomach lining, arseholes. It's toxic. They wash it with formaldehyde and ammonia. Wash this shit with formaldehyde and ammonia. It is in 20% of all processed meat in America contains this stuff. School dinners.
Yeah,
like 20%. It's called pink slip or something like this, and it's fucking
hot dogs,
disgusting. It's not even hot dogs. Hot dogs are labor case. Hot dogs are a real thing. They make labor case over in Germany. Like, it's not just the entrails. It's not the same thing. Like, labor case is a process that's been around for fucking years, hundreds of years, whatever. But yeah, when I thought about that pig thing, I hadn't thought about it in years, and it came back to me so vividly. And I mean, we might do a podcast on veganism, vegetarianism, and meat eating.
The one thing, if I can to try to even draw that back to what we were saying earlier and stuff as well, is that, you know, and it's like the Apocalypse Now thing. That's what that made me think of. Do you know when they hacked the shit out of that cow?
That was a real cow.
Now, real cow, right? In fact, if you watch that documentary, Hearts of Darkness, Francis Ford Coppola.
We had access to too many and too much monies, and little by little we went insane.
Yeah. He's a good talker, man, Francis Ford Coppola. But his
Great
wife, she found out or something that the villagers were going to do this festival anyway. They were going to hack the pickup anyway, and she went to Francis and said, "You have to film this," and that was like the end of his movie.
You know that's a real animal when they put that machete through its neck and you just see its eyes drop.
Just go. But this is what I'm saying. It's so crazy to us, and are we kind of, you know, maybe like a lot in the Western world, in quotes, or whatever? Are we so distanced from that brutality, the brutality of nature? And like when we talk about when we're talking about our politicians and Joe Biden's at this and Kamala Harris is at this, is at that, and Leo Varadkar's doing this thing and Micheál Martin's doing the other, and where do we get this idea that they should be held? Where do we get the idea of that standard when we kind of know that? Are we just so distanced from the brutality, dog eat dog, fucking human skewer pig nature of reality that we expect better from? Where do we get that idea that we expect better from people when we kind of know at our root that we're these kind of just brute beings?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Expectations.
And I firmly believe we can be more than that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, of course we can. I mean, there are pockets of humanity and we see empathy on a global scale all the time, but I mean, there's some innate self-destructive thing going on with human beings.
Well, I think, I don't know, we're fucking going well over here, right? But I think that's the base. We should talk about this another time. But like, all I remember hearing, the second law of thermodynamics is entropy, right? Which means things fall apart, okay?
Okay.
Like this cup.
Yeah.
Fast forward 1,000 years, don't touch that cup, it'll what? Disintegrate, right?
Okay, yeah.
Things just, the natural death and destruction, dissolution and stability and nothingness, everything decay, everything just turning into sand, returning into particle, is the natural just cycle of the universe.
Yeah.
Death, and so that's why it's so much easier to kill something, it's so much easier to end a life than it is to create or sustain one, right?
Yes.
Like every moment of living is a fucking victory, and but we forget sometimes that, because we live such insular lives, that death, the brutality, the viscera, the abject is the universe, which is why that makes me feel like all human beings and all living things ought to live together. The fascists haven't taken this one, have they? All living things have to fucking work together, because the universe, I always laugh when people say, I'm going to ask the universe for it. The universe hates you, okay? It doesn't have a feeling, but if it did, it's basically waiting for the day you die.
Indifference. It's certainly not there. It's not in your corner.
No, it doesn't hate. You're absolutely right. It's indifferent. We, as not only human beings, but as like life. It's life versus the fucking universe, man. And we as living things have got to fucking stick together and take up for each other. That's what I fucking feel like.
I think that's a beautiful sentiment to end it on. Really liked it. Thanks, Len, for wrapping it up for us there.
No worries. Always wrap it up, boys.
Always a pleasure. I mean, I have to say, this has become one of my favourite things.
This is all I have.
Yeah, it's sort of it's therapeutic, but yeah. We'll see anyone who watched. Thanks for watching. One of the most important things to say is please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. It's how we feed our ego.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's what we're doing. All right, I guess we're out.
I need a cigarette and a joint.
I need a cigarette and a cigarette.